The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening. Welcome to the Eating for Abs Better Body Blueprint webinar. I'm Coach B. I wanted to welcome you all. Some of you I know, some of you are new. We're definitely going to have an opportunity to get some good information tonight together. I've asked two of my really knowledgeable colleagues, Dr. Kate Cleveland and Coach Donovan Manley, to put together a presentation to kind of streamline and simplify and demystify some of the convoluted information that's out there on achieving our best body. There's so much crap in the fitness magazines and so many products for sale and so many talk show hosts selling the newest, greenest coffee bean that there's so much information that just, I think most of us can get easily lost and paralyzed. So today we're going to talk mostly about what happens in the gym. As you know, Eating for Abs is a brand that encompasses what we do in the kitchen as well as in the gym. This webinar in particular is mainly going to focus on simplifying and making your workouts efficient so that you can achieve your best body. I want to welcome you all again, and I'm going to now turn on your screen and I'm going to introduce our guests or our presenters this evening. 1 second. And also at the end, just to let you know, we're going to definitely have time for your Q&A, so we can get to hear some of your voices and answer some questions. I often tell the story about how
this is Rose Spotter from the marketing team here at Telestream, and I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today, ScreenFlow 5 Advanced Techniques. So thank
before he was lucky enough to get on the what do you call it? On the list for
transplant list.
Yes, transplant list. Thank you very much. I lost my mind. So that was a fantastic day. But I remember the day he was going into surgery to have his transplant. I had been there nights before, and we'd spent hours and hours and days at the hospital. And at this particular time, when he was going in the morning, he was going into surgery, I wasn't at the hospital, but he called the house. And when he called the house, he said, he just gave us a phone call that was just very finalistic. It was actually it was literally a pat on the back, saying how well I had done at something, and we're doing a good job. Which, number one, is a little bit out of character for my dad. He's a very loving guy, but shows it in his own way. And just that one finalistic statement was just it hurt me to my core. And so I decided that I didn't want to pass that kind of pain on, to my family, to my kids, and down the line. So I would do whatever it took to turn my life around. And then, I hired a coach like me, incredible guy, well-educated, very knowledgeable, listened a lot. And, for a whole year, we worked together on every aspect of what I would have to do in order to really make a long-term impact, a generational impact in my family for better health. And then, as a residual benefit, feel good myself and look better myself. And the whole time I was writing this stuff down. I was, being very public on Facebook. I'm cooking everything I can get my hands on and posting pictures, and people started asking me questions, which I really didn't feel comfortable answering at the time because I couldn't espouse. I didn't feel like I was qualified to espouse. I was just talking about my own personal experience. But then at some point, I went back to my coach and said, listen, people are asking me questions and I don't feel comfortable answering, because I can only tell them about what the right answer was for me, and I know that's not the right answer for everyone else. So what do I have to do to become a person who's qualified to at least answer some of the questions? And as any good coach would do, he listened to the problem, started to prescribe and diagnose what I need to do. So we went back to school and started re-educating myself, and a whole lot of hours volunteering and learning and interning and listening to people who were greater knowledge than me until I was able to earn the certifications that I needed to actually be able to espouse. So, and that became Eating for Abs. So welcome aboard. Coach Donovan's obviously here with us. You've got your screen working. Donovan, can you hear us?
I can. Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry for the delay. I tried to do the two screens and I couldn't do it.
Okay, cool.
So now we've got it here.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. So that's me, the handsome devil on the left. My name is Brendan Moore. My friends refer to me as B. You can call me B. Dr. Kate Cleveland is with us tonight. Hello, Kate.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Kate is a doctor of physical therapy down in Atlanta. She got her doctorate at Emory and is just a really incredible listener, which I think is huge in terms of being a person who can coach and can really help people to get over the hump. And last but not least, Coach Donovan Manley. Where are you, sir? There he is. Look at him doing those. What are you doing? Are you doing like tricep extension in that picture? What is that?
No, I'm actually leaning against my power rack, and that's what happens when you live with a photographer. You get pictures all the time.
Okay. Donovan is a retired infantry officer, was once the Army drill sergeant of the year, which makes me kind of scared of you.
Yeah.
But I respect you.
Yeah.
And he began to focus on injury prevention and post-rehab after his recovery from serious injuries. He does a lot of work with first responders, tactical athletes like firemen, police, military, and he's going to share some really good information with us this evening. So I want to welcome you both, and thank you so much for answering the call. Before we go into the agenda, I just want to make sure you get a chance to say hello to everyone, let them hear your voice, and then we can move forward.
Go ahead, Kate.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. Sorry for all the technical difficulties.
Hey, I'm glad you're here.
And Coach.
Yeah, I'm glad you're all here. Thanks for joining us. It will get smoother.
So I'm going to hand it over to you from here, and don't be surprised if I interject here and there, but we're in your capable hands, guys.
Okay, so just quickly on the agenda, not going to read everything, but the feeling here is that if you have a template that you can work off of, then you can adjust that template to your own personal needs. But it's important to start with the right template, and that's usually the step that we miss. So we're just going to cover that and how to give you a template that you can walk away with, and discuss how to use it. And then at the end, like Coach B said, we're going to have a question and answer. So you can go ahead and type your questions into the question box, or if you really want to raise your hand and say the question into the microphone at the end, then I think there's a raise your hand function there that you can go over.
Yes. So why are we here? Why are you here? Why did we create this webinar? That is the big question. We created this webinar specifically for people that are just newly entering the gym or re-entering after a prolonged absence for whatever the reason might be, injury, pregnancy, laziness, whatever that might be. We created it for anyone that's currently frustrated with their lack of results, or even that their time might be wasted in the gym just because they don't have the knowledge or the tools to achieve their personal goals. Because we all know that everyone wants to look and feel their best while also improving their longevity and quality of life, as Coach B kind of touched on earlier. I think the biggest reason why people avoid strength training, lifting weights, and the gym in general are due to four things. The first one being many people feel like they don't have the time to lift or to exercise due to a professional career, children, personal commitments. Another reason people don't go to the gym is because of fear of embarrassment, fear of injury, which is a huge part of what I do. The last thing you want to do is become the next viral gym meme. And people also want to know what they can do after they've had an injury or just got out of surgery. Some people have no idea where to even begin. That might be you, thinking that you need a trainer every time you lift weights just because you have no idea what the next exercise should even look like. And we also created this because we want to debunk some of the common stereotypes that I hear on a daily basis. Like, I don't want to lift weights because I don't want to look like a man, or, as a guy, I don't want to get too bulky. I want to stay nice and lean. So if you find yourself in any of those categories, we created this for you. Personally, as a physical therapist, I'm, training and rehabbing people all day. And a lot of times, I'm exhausted and my brain is just fried. The last thing I want to do is go to the gym and try to train and program myself. So, we created this even for people like me that, just want to go on autopilot and have a blueprint and a template already in place before they even, walk into the gym. We kind of take the guesswork out and give you a no-nonsense training blueprint.
Excellent.
Yeah, so build on what Dr. Kate said here. This is a very common thing this time of year. You joined a gym, you've got a good start going, you show up at the gym, and there's all this equipment. Sometimes you've seen it before, sometimes you haven't, and many times in the gym, they're kind of packed this time of year, so you don't really get the guidance that you need, and kind of the natural inclination is to start moving towards the cardio machines, the ellipticals and the treadmills and things like that. And there's a reason for that. The gym set it up that way on purpose because the cardio machines, they require very little input from their staff. There's a very low learning curve, and frankly, you're going to get sweaty and tired very quickly, so you feel like you've gotten an effective workout. And then that way they can just churn folks through without having to put a whole lot into their staff training and things like that. But some interesting stats up on the screen here is that 2/3 of the people never use their gym membership, and that's kind of on purpose too. But that's not what we want to see. We want to see more people using it. Most of the gym signups are in January, and most of them don't last more than 6 months. And oddly enough, the highest usage rate is in March, and I think that's because we get off to a good start in January. We keep paying the fees through February, and then in March we realize that the spring and summer's coming up pretty quick, and so we better get on the ball there. And so folks will show up in February and March. But some even more...
That's interesting because it speaks a little bit to what the business of a gym is, a regular commercial gym is, and that is to sell memberships, not necessarily to get you in shape or to really put you in a position to see progress.
No, it absolutely is. And in fact, I saw a study done where the large discount gyms actually could not stay in business if everybody who had a membership showed up. They way oversell their capacity because they count on the fact that 2/3 of the folks are not going to show up. Right. And then once again, they don't have qualified trainers there, so they just stack it with cardio machines. You can get in there, you get on a treadmill, you feel like you're doing something, and then you move on, and it doesn't really create any overhead on them. And so
right.
That's kind of the business model. And so when you think of it in that way, then the statistics here make perfect sense. So if less than half meet the aerobic activity guidelines, but less than a quarter meet the muscle strengthening guidelines, because it's a little more involved to do muscle strengthening activities if you've never done them. Once you've done them for a while, you'll realize how simple it is. But if you just look over there and it's a bunch of things that are heavy and they don't have instructions and nobody's helping you, then you're going to shy away from them. And so that puts less than 20% meeting both the aerobic and the muscle strengthening activity guidelines. That's not a good number for our society. And so
right. Now let me ask a question just to speak for. We've got plenty of ladies on the line tonight. Before we get too deep into it, I already hear the objection coming. Are they going to talk about lifting weights tonight? Because I don't want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't want to get bulky.
Well,
you want to handle that objection before we get too deep?
Yeah, so there's actually a good Arnold Schwarzenegger's perfect example. There's a great quote. He said he looks at people look at him and say, "I don't ever want to look like you," and he looks at them and says, "Don't worry, you won't." And so he's being smart aleck, but the truth is you won't. You have to put extremely dedicated and specific effort into bulking, right? So just doing lifting weights in and of itself is not going to make you into a bodybuilder. The template that we're going to give you will absolutely not make you into a bodybuilder because it's not split up like that. It's based on movements, not muscles. And so, the folks that get big like that and that look that way, that is their intent. They very specifically tailor their exercise regimen to look that way. And so if you don't do that, if you don't go at it with the intent of looking that way, then you're not going to. You're just going to become stronger, and you're going to move better, and you're going to feel better, and you're going to have a whole bunch of health benefits that we're going to talk about later. So the common idea is that just lifting the weights, but the groceries you carry in every day, that's lifting weights. They didn't make you bulky. We just want to put that into a program that's going to make you healthy and make you move better. Does that make sense?
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, so like we were talking about the resistance training, so there's a bunch of benefits here. And so it's been proven, this is from the Centers for Disease Control, is that adding resistance training to your workout program can reduce the symptoms of these chronic conditions here. And the ones of note there, arthritis, osteoporosis, back pain, those things happen to us as we get, like me, up into our 40s and start moving on. These things can build up. The important thing to note is that as we age, we actually lose power and strength faster than aerobic capacity. So those are the things that we want to try and maintain through resistance training. And by doing that, it will also help us improve our balance, our glucose control. It will help you maintain or increase your bone mass density, lower your blood pressure, and improve your sleep quality. And this is all from the Centers for Disease Control. This isn't, me, the personal trainer, trying to tell you that it's a great thing. These are proven benefits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me personally, strength training has really helped decrease, any symptoms of depression and especially anxiety. When I don't lift, I feel like those symptoms can kind of come back. But once I'm in the gym, it's amazing what the endorphins can do.
Yeah, it absolutely increases your mental well-being, and that's why you can get that same sort of feeling on a treadmill to some degree, but it's not going to be sustained, and that's where we want to get to. So the problem with strength training, of course, is that it takes a little more planning than just going in and jumping on a machine. And so the planning becomes more complicated because the fitness media, or even just the public, the mainstream media, they make it more difficult for us with stuff like this. All of these headlines that you see here, that's just the stuff that's in there this month. And just like the gyms are trying to sell memberships, the magazines are trying to sell magazines. So if they came out and told you, hey, here's a great template, you can use this and probably see results for the next 2 years, they're not going to sell many magazines, are they? Because they've got nothing to talk about next month. So they're going to throw the newest, greatest thing. And usually when you see a star on the cover, that star is out promoting his movie or her movie, or it's somebody with a new album out or something like that who just happened to hire a trainer. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the magazines. And so they're going to give you little tidbits that it's okay to weave one or two of those things into your workout as you go along. But when you replace your entire program every month based on what's in a magazine, then what you get is random. And so random workouts produce random results. I mean, if you want to improve at something, you have to do that thing over and over again, right? So that's why we build the template. We have basic movements that we follow, and you do those movements over and over again with a little bit of variety, and that's when you're going to get the results that you want, right? And so the other thing that complicates it is, once again, people trying to sell things will tell you that kettlebells are the answer. They're the only answer. They are the magic tool that you need, or the TRX, or doing HIIT, or doing P90X, or any of these events. Folks will tell you that this is the thing, and anything else is suboptimal, and it's not going to get you the results that you want. But the fact is that none of them are the answer, right? They're all very effective in their own way, but the old expression, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you're selling kettlebell training, everything looks like a kettlebell problem. But I'd rather have a whole bunch of tools that I could reach in and choose the right one for the job at hand. That's kind of where we're getting at. And I love this quote that kind of gets at that. Folks don't want a 1/4 inch drill, they want 1/4 inch holes, meaning it doesn't really matter what implement you use if it's going to get you the result that you're looking for. And so that's what we want to do, is open it up a broad range, the ability to use a broad range of tools and get you where you want to go. But when we talk about that, the first thing we have to do is establish, fundamental movement quality. This is a quote from Gray Cook's book, The Movement. And the idea is that once you've established movement quality, then you can start looking at specific, sport-specific or activity-specific goals. And what I find is that the workouts in magazines or even a lot of famous fitness programs, what they want to do is start you straight off at the top. You're already at high skill movements with no idea whether you have the ability to harness that movement. And so the template that we're talking about is just going to be based on some primary movement skills that's going to be balanced and that's going to restore movement quality for folks that don't have it. So if you go into a gym and everybody's doing the exact same workout, then there's something missing there. They haven't looked at that person and seen what they have going on, whether they have movement quality in all of the movements, and how to restore that.
Right.
So here, this is the performance pyramid. You see, we try and jump in at the top. We want to be skilled, and we want to do, the Olympic lifts, and we want to do all kinds of fancy martial arts and stuff, and we can't move properly. But if we build a good movement foundation, then the level of fitness that we're going to be able to achieve ultimately will be much higher. We just have to start at the beginning. Arthur,
the beginning is the base of that pyramid. Functional movement, you're saying, right?
That's right. Right. You have to, figure out where you are as far as your movement quality, your ability to control your body through space. Figure out where you are on that hierarchy. Shore up the weaknesses while you build on the strengths. And then once you've established a large base to that pyramid and you can move well, then you can start putting strength on top of that. Then you can start putting skills and ability on top of that. Otherwise, another quote from Gray Cook is you're just adding fitness on top of dysfunction. And that's what leads to imbalance. And imbalance inevitably leads to those aches and pains that we all suffer from as we get older. But we can avoid a lot of that just by ensuring that what we're doing is creating balance. And the easiest way to do that is just with some fundamental movement blocks. I mean, there's really nothing new under the sun here. All of the new things that you hear coming out are probably just variations or combinations of these 6 essential movements, right? So the squat, the hinge, bending at the hips, pushing, pulling, resisting movement through the core, and then carrying heavy things. Just about anything that any program that folks are trying to sell you is a combination of those things, just repackaged and called something. But we can build a template based on that by looking at each one of those and where they fit, and ensuring that we hit them all at regular intervals. And although templates tend to worry folks, they think, well, some people are a little bit ADD when it comes to their workout programs. They don't want to stick to the same thing for more than a week, because then they start getting bored. Well, the beauty of just breaking it down into these 6 movements is that there's so many variations to each of them, and so many ways that you can vary the template, that you can always stay interested in it, and we're going to cover that.
Donovan, when you say template, let's define that just so we make sure that everybody's kind of knows what to expect. What are we delivering today in terms of what is a template?
So a template is really just, I'm going to break down a way where you can take all 6 of those movements and fit them into a workout, and then how to break that out across a week. And then you just keep, and it's just going to be the movement filled in, and you'll see where it fits into the program. And then you can take that movement, like the squat, for instance. So you see we've got squat here, but there are several examples of squats that you can put into the template. So, if the template today called for squats as my primary exercise, well, I can choose from this menu and say, that way I'm meeting my meeting that block of balance, so that I keep a balanced program. I'm hitting the squat block. And then the other beauty of it is, by looking at all the different variations, I'm not telling anyone to go do a back squat, because some folks just cannot back squat. they're not at that stage in their progression where they need to be back squatting, either because of injury or tight hips or upper back problems, any number of things where that's not the exercise for them. But a squat, there's somewhere along that spectrum of squat movement that they can do. Walking upstairs is a squat action. Standing up from your chair is a squat action. So somewhere along that spectrum, there's one that we can do, barring some sort of injury where the knee is immobile. In that case, we really don't have anything, and your physical therapist will certainly be working with you there. But as long as you're pain-free.
I mean, even picking up your small child from the floor is a front squat.
Yes, if you hug your child to your chest, and that's a wonderful exercise. You grab a duffel bag or something childlike and hold it to your chest and stand up. I love that exercise. It's actually very good. It puts a whole new strain on the body, and that's the nice part. You get a little bit of a different flavor based on what implement you use or which one of these along the spectrum that you choose, and it keeps it interesting, but it's still improving your ability to perform that primary movement.
Okay.
Right? And so we're going to lay it out in a table here in a minute. I just want to make sure everybody sees how these exercises break out. So squat's really anything dominated by the knee. There's some examples there. The hinge, people think of hinge, they think of a deadlift, which is the primary hip hinge movement, but there are so many other variations on that. I even put the Val slide curl there. Val slides are essentially a fitness version of furniture sliders. So if you have the plastic furniture sliders, you can do this movement. You just put your heels on it, lay on your back, try and straighten your hips up off the ground, and then bend your knees in. Believe me, it will wake you up. But any of these right here count as a hinge, and there's a much wider variety than that, but you can see how you can get some good variety here. And then push. If you're moving the resistance away from you, it's a push. And push is one of those that has both a vertical and a horizontal element. So if you're pushing it straight out in front of you, that'd be the horizontal. If you're pushing it up over your head or in the direction of above your head, then that's going to be the vertical. And you want to try and balance those to some degree.
Does that include? So Donovan, would you look to do all three, like an overhead push, a horizontal straight out push, and does it also include, like if you were to do a dip, is that included in your push?
Yes.
Menu?
Yeah, that would be as well. And that's a vertical, but it's just instead of overhead, it's going down. And that's not really one. Honestly, the dip is not something that I incorporate very often, just because it's hard to get folks to do that without their shoulders gliding forward and causing some issues there. It takes it takes some coaching to get that one without causing problems. But yeah, that would include. So you're going to do them, but you're going to do them throughout the week. So you'll add some vertical and you add some horizontal throughout the week. Doesn't necessarily need to be in the same workout, but as long as you've we call it earn the right to go overhead, meaning you can move your shoulder blades are moving freely. You can get your arms, the back of your hands together overhead without causing pain. Then you'd want to incorporate vertical in there.
Okay.
If not, you can stick to the horizontal and then go to an incline, and then that's going to give you back some of that movement. And then once you build some balance, and that's what we'll talk about next, once you build some of that balance that's kind of inherently missing because of our lifestyle with the pull, then you'll find that you'll probably gain some of that overhead movement back. Right? So the pull is anything that pulls the resistance towards you. So you're either pulling the bar towards you, or you're pulling yourself up to the bar. Any of those, and again, this has a vertical and a horizontal component. Same rules apply about earning the right to go overhead, but you'll probably find fewer problems with vertical pulling than you will with pushing. And I'll tell you that in the template you'll see, and I tend to program this usually at a 2-to-1 or even a 3-to-1 ratio to the push, because most of us kind of curl over towards the front a little bit. We're in a computer-dominated society. We're in a seat-dominated society these days. We tend to curl a little bit. That puts the whole back part, the posterior chain, everything running along our back. It kind of puts it at a disadvantage. So we want to bolster that. So the hip hinge movements and the pulling movements are going to kind of counteract that curling up that we've done in the front. And so I'll put those at slightly more slightly more frequently on the pull, and the hinge not so much more frequently, but you'll find that you can do more volume. You can do more weight, or you can do more repetitions of the hinge than you will with the squat. And so that will balance out pretty well. And then the resist, this is your this is your core training. Everybody talks about core training and ab training, and really to be able to move well and to get up and down off the floor and just live your life properly, really we need to do a lot fewer crunches and a lot more of the resisting. So this has two components. It's resisting rotation and resisting extension, meaning your shoulders are going back and your hips are going forward. So if you try and get in a plank position and your hips sag to the floor, that's extension. That's what we want to try and resist, because the core musculature is designed sort of to keep us upright, to hold our big jelly-filled sack of a body upright while we move. That's the primary function of it. It's not to curl up on a stability ball. So we want to play into that function, and that incorporates everything from right below your shoulder or your armpits, really all the way down to your mid thighs. All that stuff has to work together for the resistance to work, and so you want to incorporate that in quite a bit, and you'd be surprised how much better you feel moving. And then the carries. This is probably your biggest bang for your buck movement. It's just to pick up heavy stuff and walk. Walk with good posture, keeping yourself, think tall, string pulling your head up towards the ceiling. Don't let your hips sway side to side, and just walk. If you can do this routinely, then you will be amazed at how much better you feel as you move throughout your day, right? So these examples, farmer's carry is what you see there, the comic book dude doing. Suitcase carry is the same thing, but only with one side. So just like you're picking up your heavy suitcase and trying to walk into the airport, that gets really tiring really quick, as I'm sure you know. And the waiter's carry is you got it up like the tray. The sled pushes and sled drags are included in the carries because it's the same purpose. It's it's a heavier, more intense weight, and you're trying to maintain solid posture while in locomotion. And so those are the 6 fundamental movements. And if we add them to a template, this is what we're talking about. So the first part of the template here is 4 days. So this is if you have about an hour to go to the gym 4 days a week. This is how I would recommend that you do it. And you'll see I don't have sets and reps and all that stuff put in there, because those are the variations that we're going to be able to throw in. And I don't have particular exercises. I'm just telling you this is the movement that I'd like to see you do on this day. And you'll notice that on the third line down every day, it's got the SL for single leg hinge or single leg squat. The reason we want to add that in is because the ability to control your hips and to control your body while on one leg is fundamental to injury prevention. Because if you think about it, if you trip over the carpet and you try and catch yourself with your legs, what happens? You throw one leg forward really quickly and you put all your weight on that in a decelerative motion.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not used to being on that one leg, it's not going to work for you, and you're going to end up on the ground. We spend a great deal of our time in locomotion on one leg, but we don't spend a lot of time building strength in that motion. So we're going to incorporate that in there as part of it, just to kind of build us up a little more. And so this is kind of the ideal situation. 4 days, hour a day, don't really need more than that. But if you don't have that, and this is real life we're talking about here. So if you can only get it 3 days, it's the same thing. You'll notice that the template is exactly the same. All we've done is we've gone with the squat, the pull, the single leg hinge, and on down, skipped a day, then gone to the second workout. So you'll see that it's the same one. Then we go back to the squat, and then on the following week, you're just going to start off with what's on day 3 for this week, and then continue to alternate those workout templates every other day as you go down the line. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's like a workout A, workout B scenario.
That's exactly
you're
right.
Alternate every other day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
That's right.
And the following week, you're going to start with exercise, workout B. Got it.
Yeah, you'd be an A, B, A, and then the following week would be B, A, B. You just keep rolling through like that.
Got it.
And then, so this is what I use. Folks say, well, I really only got 30 minutes to get to the gym, right? I can go 4 days a week, but I got to get in, I got to get out by the time I get showered and get back to work. That's all I've got. So what we do here is I'm going to flip slides back and forth so you can see how it worked. So if you look on day 1, the exercises there are really the first 2 exercises at the top on day 1 with the anti-rotation thrown in there. And day 2, look at the 3-day template, you've got the next 2 exercises on day 1, the single leg hinge and the pull. You've got those added in, and then you've got the carry. So we've essentially broken that one workout A into 2 days. We still hit all of our movements. And then on day 4, we start breaking down the workout B into 2 days on day 4 and 5. And then, however many days you've got available that you can go 30 to 45 minutes that day, you just do like that. We're still hitting throughout the week, we're still hitting all of our primary movements. We're still creating a balanced program, but we're doing it in the time that you have available.
Okay.
And so this is really the important part, is how are we going to mix this up? Because we keep doing the same thing every day. Now there's something to be said for that. If you want to get stronger at squatting, you need to work your way up the squat progression until you're at a back squat, and then you need to back squat. You need to continue to back squat and do heavier and heavier and heavier. But most of us aren't out to do powerlifting. We just want to be better at moving and better at living. So we can add variety.
Have better butts.
Have better butts. There's actually a friend of mine who focuses on the glute. He's the glute guy, Brett Contreras. Yep, he's made a whole living on studying the glutes with. He does EMG studies and everything else. It's quite humorous. But honestly, if you do the hinge movement and then start doing weighted hinge movements and the squats, you can't help but get a better butt. It's just going to happen. That's the way that muscle functions, right? So how we're going to mix this up, these are some of the variations some of the variables that we throw in there to mix it up, and we'll cover each one of these quickly so we can get to the questions. And they're going to be pretty common sense when you get to them. The implements, those are the tools we were talking about. It's going to change the stimulus slightly, it's going to change the flavor, and you can use any of these, and you can do nearly any of the movements that we're talking about with these different tools, and many others, anything that's out there that adds some resistance to you. Repetitions and sets. We're going to talk about this for a minute because this is what folks talk about. A repetition is every time you lift the weight and put it down, and the set is if you want to lift the weight and put it down 8 times before you rest. Once you put it down, that's one set. So this is how most folks get their variation, is through the rep set scheme. And some rule of thumb here is you try and keep the volume, which is the total number of reps and sets through the whole workout. Try and keep that total volume between about 24 and 30 for most of us. Most of us who are just trying to stay in shape for daily life. If you keep that volume between about 24 and 30, then that makes it really easy to adjust your sets and rep schemes as you go up, right? And then, as your weight goes up, your reps are going to go down necessarily because you just can't lift that heavy weight as many times. But that may mean that you can do more sets so that you get more of a stimulus out of it. And then the way I talk about how do I know what weight to use for different rep schemes is that if I want you to do 8 reps, then on the 8th rep it should be challenging, but you could do 9. And if you had to do 10, that might be too much, right? So you got to leave one in the tank. The whole idea about temporary muscle failure, again, that's the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing. If you're not trying to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, there's absolutely no reason to go to temporary muscle failure. And there's even some discussion about whether they needed to do it, but that's their sport. That's what they want to do. But for us, we don't need to do that.
One simple rule of thumb that I use is anything over 12 reps, you're working on your muscular endurance. So anything between the 10 to 12 rep range, you're still working on actual strengthening.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So once you get over about 12 to 15, you're getting into an endurance mindset. Those are very specific goals that you need to achieve, and so there's a reason to do that. But for us, just starting out, if you stick to these three breakdowns here, those will meet most of our needs for a good long time, unless we have something very specific we're trying to get to. And then, how do we vary this? So, that's kind of the beauty of it. So if you do, we'll go back to the workout A scenario there. So if you do workout A twice a week, you could do a different rep scheme for each of those. And then for workout B, you do a different rep scheme for each of those. So you could do 5x5s the first time you do it, or you could do 3 sets of 8 the second time you do it. Or you could change it by week. So this week I'm going to do strength. I'm going to do 5x5s. And then next week I'm going to do 3x8. That's really based on what your goals are, and then how easily bored you are, frankly. So it would be better for strength gain if you did 5x5s for 4 weeks. But if that's not your absolute goal, if you want to mix it up, then you don't have to do that. I mean, it's really what feels good for you. And
what if you want to get a bikini body?
If you want to get a bikini body, my recommendation would be to mix it up. So it's called undulating periodization, but really all that means is if I do workout A twice this week, I'm going to do 5x5 and then 3 times 8 to 10 the second time, or at a minimum do the lower reps this week and do the higher reps next week, and then do the mid reps maybe the following week. So mix it up pretty good, because you really want, unless you're willing to go through phases, then you're going to want to mix it up a little bit. Does that explain it?
Mm-hmm.
This is another variation. So how do I structure the workout itself? So superset versus circuit. So if you're looking for strength, superset's the way to go. Circuit's going to be a little more metabolic, so it's going to get the heart rate up. And a superset just means that the first 2 exercises, I'm going to label them 1A and 1B. So I do all of my reps for 1A, and then I immediately go into all my reps for 1B. That counts as 1 superset. I'm going to repeat that for the number of sets that I've set. So if I'm going to do 3 sets, then I'll go back to 1A and then 1B and then 1A and then 1B before I move to 2. And then I'll do the 2 exercises. If I want to do a circuit, then I just start at the first exercise. I do all the repetitions I want to do of that, move to the second one, to the third one, to the fourth one, on down to E, and then rest. And then I go straight back up to the top. And I do that for the number of rounds or sets that I want to do. And so the circuits make it kind of fun. It's challenging. It'll get your heart rate up, make you breathe a little heavy most of the time. And it's okay to throw those in every now and then. But I certainly wouldn't make that the cornerstone. I would do a lot more supersetting, and then maybe every 3 weeks or so, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, throw in a circuit just to keep it interesting. Or if you do it 3 times a week, the midday of the week, you can throw in a lighter circuit. Lighter weights, kick up the circuit, get your heart rate up a little bit. Rest periods, the rule of thumb here is the more reps, the shorter the rest, the less reps, the longer the rest. That seems counterintuitive, but if you're doing more repetitions, you're using lighter weight and your goals are slightly different. So you're going to use shorter rests, somewhere in the 45 to 60 range for 8 to 12 reps. When you get down to the 5 repetition sets, you're going to want to go 90 to 120 seconds of rest. That lets you build up, lets your muscles kind of recharge, to put it one way, so that you can lift that heavier weight again for the required number of repetitions, right? And most people see that and they think, well, I want to get metabolic. I want to get my heart rate up. I want to burn some calories. But this is not a cardio mindset. So metabolic is not always the goal. It can be good sometimes, but it's not always the goal here. So you definitely want to vary in, you definitely want to mix in some of the low repetitions and higher rest rates. And then finishers. This is what's going to really crank it up for you. Is a finisher is simply pick 2 or 3 exercises that are somewhat challenging, do 30 seconds of work, rest for 30 seconds, repeat. Keep doing that for 5 to 8 rounds. And then you want to work your way up.
Give a couple examples.
So my favorite one is I will push a sled. So I've got a heavy prowler sled. So I will push a sled for 30 seconds, rest for 30 seconds, and then grab the ropes. The reason I put the picture of the ropes is I love the ropes. Then grab the ropes and hit the ropes for 30 seconds. 30 seconds rest, push the sled back. I mean, it will gas you, and that's kind of the purpose of it. That's the intent.
Or sometimes I'll even just do like jumping, or if I have a weighted vest available, I'll put the weighted vest on and jump for 30 seconds.
Yeah, jump rope is a good one if you're getting some good speed to it. Step ups, if that's where you're at, step ups are fine. If you do 30 seconds of step ups onto a box, step up on a box, step back down. Do that for 30 seconds, rest for 30 seconds, repeat. Anything that's going to get your heart rate up, you know where you're at, that's going to work. And then this is a good place to caveat this. So this template works for the vast majority of us who are just trying to improve our ability to move, how good we feel, get the health benefits of resistance training. Some folks have very specific needs. They need to, they want to compete in a figure competition, or they want to run a Spartan race, or their job requires a certain level of fitness and movement ability. If you have those kind of needs, then that's kind of what we spend all of our time and money getting educated on, so that we can help people meet those specific needs. I'm a little biased, but I think it's worth the investment, just to ensure that you're not wasting your time, so that you can get the most efficient trajectory towards your goals possible. So just keep that in mind, that this template isn't the answer to everything, it's the answer to basic fitness and health needs. So we talk about off days. Off days are off days, folks. Take it off, okay? Do some moderate activity. Don't go hit your favorite cardio class, spin class, Zumba class, hot power yoga. Not moderate, all right? You got to have rest time, because this is when the magic happens. When you give your body a stress it has to adapt to, and then put it into a relaxed state, that is when it becomes stronger to be able to deal with that stress again. That's why you have to have the off days in the recovery. And then I know some folks are just addicted to their cardio. They have to have their cardio. So I put this in here because if you enjoy something, do it. If you want to go to Zumba and it's fun, looks like fun to me, but I have no rhythm. But if you enjoy it, get out there and do it. Just be aware of why you're doing it, because while yes, it gets your heart rate up, it does have some fitness benefits. That is not going to supercharge your fat loss as like it's sold. It's just, you can't out-train a bad diet. Doesn't matter what you do. And if you do too much of the cardio, then it will actually start setting you back. So know why you're doing it. You're doing it because it's fun. It helps you move, gets you going. It's a class. It's social. Have some idea of what you're doing it for. Just realize that this is not the panacea to your fat loss needs. And a way to do cardio, if your resting heart rate is over 60, then you'd need to build up a base, a cardiovascular endurance base. And an easy way to do that is start at 30 minutes, work your way up to 40 to 60 minutes, and just do any combination of activities that will keep your heart rate at 120 to 150 beats per minute. Right? That's just a ballpark figure. We have what's called a rate of perceived exertion scale, the Borg scale, where 1 is I'm not doing anything. Like I'm barely breathing here. I'm just sitting I'm laying down. And then 10 is I absolutely cannot go on. I can't breathe. Somebody help me. So you don't want to get over about a 6 here, right? Because the idea is not that you're gasping for air. It's that you're just getting your heart pumping a little harder than it's supposed to and keeping it going for a while. And the beauty of this, Joel Jamieson popularized it, the cardiac output method, is that you just pick several different activities that meet those requirements and you string them together in 5, 10, 15-minute blocks. So you don't have to go ride the bicycle for 60 minutes. You can jump some rope, you can shadow box, you can jump up and down onto a box, then you can ride the bicycle, you can do a little bit of stair climber. I mean, you just mix it up and keep it interesting. That's a whole new perspective for me when I started talking to Joel about that. And it's really opened it up and made it a lot more fun. So you take all that stuff together. The key to fitness here is to have a goal that is based on health, strength, capability, something that is going to help make your life better, And so, one of the affirmations that I really like is to start thinking about the type of person that you want to be, not the attributes that you want to have. And so a good fitness goal, or a good way to get to your fitness goals, is to think, I want to be the type of person who will take the steps necessary to be strong, healthy, capable, and live a long and fun life, right? Be that type of person. And then in order to do that, you've got some bullet points here. One of them that I really like is, if you miss one, just don't miss the next one. So if you miss a workout, don't beat yourself up. Just don't miss the next one. Get back on the train and keep going. It's all right. And then if you find yourself missing more than a few, get yourself an accomplice, somebody who's going to beat you to the punch, call you, send you a text, and tell you, hey, meet me at the gym, before you give yourself a chance to quit. Right? And then I love this, and I'm pretty sure I stole it from someone, but I don't know who. But it just struck me, so I wrote it in my notebook, and I didn't write down the attribution. But your fitness isn't who you are, it's how you are now. It can always be improved. And your person is not tied to it. It's just a state of being that you can improve at any time. That's what I've got, folks. I think, B, if you want to read the questions out, because I've got the full screen, so I can't see them.